This is incredible. We're living in 2025. For a family, for a young person to say, I'm making over 50,000 a year and I'm the first person in my family. Imagine the opportunity that exists. We could create this opportunity for at scale for young generation, for people that don't have any other resources, by giving people something that they don't have to work for, make people dependent of that something, and it destroys, it kills the will of the individual to be out there and be something on their own. This is a society, the American society, the best country that's ever been created on a planet Earth, and the system, the political system, with opportunities.
Do we have issues going on? Of course we have issues going on.
Of course.
But it's nowhere else, anybody else who want to be. People are dying to get to this country. People are dying. If it's so bad, why are people dying to...
It's very, very easy to see yourself as a victim. Don't ever become a victim. You're not a victim. When you embrace the victim mentality,
you know what, and you said something powerful last night when I was speaking with you. It's a lot of people who really want to speak up and really want to say something, but then they're in a situation, if I speak up, I lose my job. So it's like they're in a hard situation. Do I lose my job or do I do what's moral? Even though you want to do the moral thing, you got a family to feed at home. And so it puts a person in a bad situation.
Yeah, it definitely does. At the end of the day, I think it's up to each individual,
Right.
Life, it's a matter of choices. We make choices every day. Sometimes they're great, sometimes maybe not so good, but at the end of the day, we're in charge completely with the choices we make. And something that might seem like it's the easier way out, maybe long term is not really, the best way to go, or maybe it comes back and haunts you long run. So I still believe that something that could be very painful short term could actually turn out to be long term, be the right thing to do, and the thing that actually make you sleep well at night.
That's the key. That when you said make you sleep well at night, I had a guy that was doing some work with me. We were working on a house. As a matter of fact, it was an apartment. And he was calling me about what we need to do. And I said, well, is it necessary? And he said, it's not necessary, but I'll be able to sleep well at night. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And so I tell people, what I've been working on lately, and I know it's kind of off topic, but I've been working on mindset. And I realized that your mindset is more powerful than anything, and working on you. And so before I can start to be a better leader, or before I can help my clients better, I gotta make me better. I know this may sound crazy, and I didn't ever want to accept it, but when you do self-reflection, and you really do go deep down and don't lie to yourself, that's an ugly place to be. And you realize a lot of the stuff that you say about others, or when I had my guys, I'm like, oh, you sorry. Or I had all this negative stuff to say, you never on time. And I looked around, I wasn't on time. I was cutting corner. So I realized that I was a messed up individual. And so I was projecting myself off on them.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started realizing I got to start looking at me. And when I look at me and get myself right, I don't have to, it's way easier to lead at that point, because people are gonna follow. I don't have to tell them what to do, because they'll see me. And once you raise the tide here, what's the saying, raise the tide and the boat rise, everybody else is gonna follow. As long as I'm right here and I want everybody up here, they're looking at me, how they gonna go here? Am I making sense?
Absolutely. And you're also absolutely right too.
And so, like I said, mindset is everything. And once you get aligned with what's right with inside of yourself and your moral compass, you will know when you're doing the right thing. Because what did you say when we were kids? I get butterflies in the stomach. I believe that's your intuition. And so when you use your intuition, you can't really use your logical mind. You don't know why you're doing it, but I just know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying with the maintenance, property manager, or whoever it may be. It may not it may feel bad, but if you just go ahead and do the right thing, sometimes it may hurt in the beginning, but in the long run, you're like, damn, I'm glad I made that decision. You know,
Yeah,
mindset.
totally.
So what do you got planned for the rest of the day?
I want to go to the show, man. I'm going to go to the reverse trade show. There's a lot of people that to meet out there.
What is it called?
Reverse trade show. So, regular trade show is that, you put up your booth and people come by your booth. Now it's the property management companies put up booths and then vendors go and basically interview them. Right. See what they have going on, get their cars, get their contact information. So turning the tables a little bit.
Where's it going to be at?
Cub Galleria.
You got to be a part of the apartment association.
You got to be a part of association. You got to pay the fee for that particular event. It's not enough to just be a member. I think there's a fee, admission fee. Also, I think that there's a networking event there too, like after the trade show. So people, kind of hang out, mingle. So.
Let me ask you, what continues to fuel you to do this, what you do? Because we don't talk a whole lot, but I follow you online, so it kind of makes me feel like I'm still in touch with you. And when I see you from airport to airport, city to city, and I know it just has to be a passion that you have inside, because the normal person just couldn't do this. So what gives you that drive to keep you going like that?
I wanted to, I guess, disagree with you right there. I'm not out of, this world person different. I feel like I'm no different than you or anybody else. I feel like a totally normal guy. I think it's a matter of, again, goes back to the choices. What are the choices? Do you choose to do this, to focus on it, to give your all, to work 16 hours a day, to work, weekends? Like, that's a choice, right? And it's within our power. Like, unless like you have your body physically, you're not capable of doing it. There's no other impediments. You could, anybody could do what I do. But to go back to your question, what drives me is one thing that I've been thinking about quite a bit. I've been contemplating for a number of years now, for a few years, and it's legacy, right? How do I want to be remembered? An easy way to, go through life for me at this point would be to secure a full-time job, work for a company, do great things together, accomplish, just look towards retirement, right? There's another way, which is not an easy way, the way you describe a little bit, hustling, trying to like recreate the income that I used to have as a full-time employee from various sources, from various pieces, and then also build something that might last longer than I am physically. I'm going to, right? Something that I would leave behind that maybe for a little while people will remember. So I'm thinking about legacy. In one word, the word is legacy. How would I be remembered? What would I be leaving behind? And I think that there's a huge opportunity for people in general, but speaking for myself now, the opportunity lays into doing things that weren't done before at scale in an industry. Like, for example, we're suffering. The labor shortages are immense. This is one thing. How can we make the situation better? Apprenticeships are a way. There's programs out there that are proving to be successful in various markets, in various cities across the country, but they're not scaled. How do we scale that? I'm thinking about it. I have a plan for it. I'm hoping to come out publicly and share that plan. How can we actually bring the younger generation to love the trades, to love to be a maintenance technician, or maybe even work on a vendor side, be one of your, water extraction technicians or mold remediation technicians, but bring the younger generation to love the trades and actually not just make a living, but thrive. Because we're thinking now, and this is another thing that I pay attention, very close attention, AI. AI changes everything. Jobs the way they are today, we're not going to do those jobs the same way a year, 3, 5 years from now. Correct. Some of them will disappear totally. Some of them will be like deeply influenced. Now, the trades generally speaking, I think that they're going to take a while for robotics to take over, for automation to take over. You will still need humans to replace a P-trap, to replace a garbage disposal. And it's mainly because they're not all like installed the same way. For robots to understand like various circumstances, I think it's gonna take a long time. Is it like a fantasy that they're going to do maintenance work in the future? No, I don't think it is. I think that there are already other robots like, picking up trash on properties. I actually know for a fact. But, slowly but surely they'll learn to do other tasks as well. There's, for example, those robots they install roofs. They install drywall. So that exists already. Maybe they're not at scale. Maybe they're not like super sophisticated today. Maybe they're making quite a few mistakes, but these guys are improving. Day by day by day, they get better and better and better. So a year, they could learn way more than a human could learn, right? Because they're interconnected, they communicate with each other, and those bugs that they have, those errors that they're, putting out in an output, they're being corrected as we speak. They're being corrected, and the learning process is way faster than the humans learn. So with that being said, I still believe that there's a huge opportunity for us as an industry to go out there and recruit young people, because not everybody goes to college. Not everybody can go to college. Not everybody is like equipped to go to college, and that's okay. That's the way it should be. I'm thinking about young generations. I was very inspired to be a part of like a relaunch of a service academy up in Maryland. And then the person that's the heart of this program, Candice told me that basically they went and they targeted areas, neighborhoods where young people don't have many opportunities. The very few choices that they have out there are to start selling drugs, to kill each other, to end up in prison. A lot of them don't even, reach like 30, 35 years of age. They went and they brought, young men from these neighborhoods, and they put them into this program that they have. And then one of them said, I'm the first person in my family, in all the generations going back, that will make over $50,000 a year.
Wow.
This is incredible. This is incredible. We're living in 2025. For a family, for a young person to say, I'm making over $50,000 a year and I'm the first person in my family, imagine the opportunity that exists. We could create this opportunity at scale for young generation, for people that don't have any other resources. To go that step, there's a few steps that, the beginning steps, that they're just kind of missing. There's a gap, and it's incredibly hard to close that gap. If we're helping them close that gap, get them over the hump to where they get to start making a living, like a living wage, basically sky is the limit for them. So I think that's where an amazing opportunity is, and I'm very, very determined to be a part, to lead a movement that's going to target young generation in this type of neighborhoods, bring them into the trades, bring them into apartment maintenance, training them and provide them a better future for themselves and for the generations to come. I know it's a very long answer to your question, but that's.
But what does that look like to you, though? How does that begin? Because what I'm thinking now, we have to catch them before they get out of high school, especially in those neighborhoods. And I can remember, I don't know if it was when you were growing up, when I was a kid, they used to have the trades in high school. They had the plumbing, the HVAC, the electrical. But during that time, those were the glorified jobs. It was nobody wanted to do it. Everybody should have went to college. But I realized that should have been reversed. Yeah. I mean, and if kids know, especially where I'm from, especially in the black neighborhoods, because I can speak on that because that's where I'm from. I seen a lot of kids who didn't have no other hope, and all what we looked up to the dope boy. So the dope boys the only one had money, the dope boys the only one had cars, the dope boys the only one had nice houses. So that's what you want it to be. And so if you see another way that you can make a dope boy money from doing HVAC, man, they might not be selling no powder, no crack. They're gonna be selling on this HVAC, you know? So if you can get to doing those trades and can let these guys know that the amount of money you can make, you gotta catch them early before they get caught up in the trap, because it's easy. So I know that's a long-winded question I'm asking you, but I think we need to start off, well, I can't say we, but the school system should start implementing this thing in high school or even in 8th grade, because sometimes we're losing these young boys early. And they didn't think about some of these guys in those trades making $100,000 a year starting out. I mean, on their own. If they're doing HVAC on their own or plumbing. And it's a skill you're always gonna have.
So here's what I'm saying. I have some pretty rough experiences growing up with government in general and everything that's being run by government. Generally speaking, government sucks at everything that they do. And this is not a political statement, regardless of the political party that's in power. Our society, everything that government has been running for the past 50, 70 years has not been improving. It's becoming more expensive, less accessible, and the quality sucks, right? So I would like to see, maybe initiatives that are supported by the government or the schools, bringing back the trades. I know what you're talking about, the shop classes.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that if we really want the change, we have to become the change. I think the change will be driven mainly by either a public-private partnership or like non-profit or private initiatives. If we're going to expect for the government to solve these problems for us, it's never gonna happen. It's gonna be a sure recipe for failure. And I'm giving this example. When government says we need more affordable housing, because we all work in this environment, in housing, right? We service the housing industry. They try to do programs that are supposedly making housing more affordable. Every time the government intervenes, housing becomes more expensive. And it's a recent example in California. They tried to build a community for low-income residents. And an apartment, they came up with a price per apartment that was over $1 million per apartment, per unit. The same builder just down the road in the same neighborhood, a private initiative, he did it 3 times less expensive than that. How is that possible? How is that possible? That's reality. That's not fabulation. And I would love to found Jay Parsons wrote an article about this. Same neighborhood, same builder, difference 3 times more expensive when it's a government initiative for affordability. So you tell me, how is that affordable? How is that a success? Therefore, I think that the government could support initiatives. I don't think the government should be should be the main driver of these initiatives, because it's not going to end up successfully based on a government record of success, which is not amazing.
Most of the time when the government gets involved, like you said, it's smoke and mirrors. It's smoke and mirrors. And I know this is going way off topic, but I never seen when government give all the handout, it seems to cripple people more than it. And I'm like, who's really making the money in the end? Seems like it's the government. So is the government really for the people? So I'm kind of picking back off what you saying. The less government we have, the better off we are, I believe. The less you get government in your business. Of course, we need government to a certain extent.
We definitely do. I think they should be involved in, law enforcement. Another example that comes to mind, it's really not a funny situation. I think the government of California, we're going back for some reason. It's a good reason why I use California as an example, because I think, it's very easy for other states to kind of get in love with government-run stuff, and they're gonna end up the same way. It can be a different result, right? So they spend about $1 billion a year to eradicate homelessness, the homeless population has increased in California.
Hold on. Say that again, Adrian.
$1 billion a year spent to eradicate or to help to bring the numbers of homeless individuals down. The number has increased.
So where's the money going? Who's getting the money?
That's the thing. There's probably close to zero accountability. Where is the money going? What's happening with the money too, right? Because they might just, being spent in a way, but are they spent in a most efficient way? Well, the results are telling us the opposite, that they're really not getting that. And $1 billion is still $1 billion. Imagine if a private enterprise, imagine if you were given $1 billion and say, Deonco, we want to improve this community life. I'm pretty sure that, you could have built some shelters. You could have done a lot of things. Even in California, with $1 billion, it goes a long way.
That's right.
Really. And for the government to come out and say, we just spent this $1 billion, we have more homeless people, don't have much to show for, that's very telling. I think that's a telling story of our ages. And again, I go back to, I'm a limited government, person. Growing up in communism, I've seen this taken to an extreme, right? Where government runs just about everything, right? Everything is being run in communism. The more you put on a government, the less efficiency you're gonna get, the more expensive and the more misery is gonna be generated. It's not gonna be more success. That's just personal experience. And it's not just my personal experience. Everybody that wants to study history should actually check. How did it end up when a country was ran by socialist or communist policies? It never ends up well, it never works. And it's so funny that we as a human race, we keep going back to those, hoping that this time we're gonna do it better. There's no doing it better. The system is by design made to fail the people. They're part of that population.
So what do you think it is? Do you think is they don't care about the people, they just want the money, or are people, like we were speaking on earlier with Ed, are people just stuck in their ways and continue to do things, doing business as usual has always been done?
The ideology is about control. It's not about caring for people. I'm a big person that wants to respect the individual. I believe in the power of the individual. You're talking about mindset, changing your mindset, become an entrepreneur, being successful. This is where the power lays into the individual. A capitalistic system bets on individual. The left-leaning policies and ideologies, they're putting people in groups because they could control people. They could tell people, you've been ignored. We're not going to ignore you anymore. And by enabling, certain things, you mentioned, handouts is one example. By giving people something that, they don't have to work for, make people dependent of that something. And it kills the will of the individual to be out there and be something on their own. This is a society, the American society, the best country that's ever been created on a planet Earth, and the system, the political system, with the opportunities. Some people need help, even here. But the opportunities that you see in this country, you don't see them anywhere else. The upward mobility for someone to start from zero, from absolutely nothing, and become something, you will never find them anywhere else in the world. And that's for a good reason. It's because of the capitalistic free market foundation of this country that's been built on.
Man, I'm telling you this, Adrian, and I met a guy down in Miami, and his father is from Iran. And so me and him was talking, and he said, I asked why he became so successful. And he said, well, the system is not designed for people like me and you. So I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking he's a white guy. But come to find out, he's Iranian. And he said, my dad told me, it's not gonna be fair for you. But his dad moved to Alabama, but he moved on down to Miami once he became successful. And he said his dad told him, it's not gonna be unfair for you. Say they're gonna look down on you. He said, but as long as you keep your head down, do what you say you're gonna do, show up how you're supposed to show up, the world is an oyster for you. And he said he always kept in his mind, he said, did he experience some bad things? He said, yeah, of course. He said, but I didn't use that as a crutch to say I can't make it because I'm from Iran and these people are gonna treat me this way. And he's very successful to this day. And so I'm saying all that to say that do we have issues going on? Of course we have issues going on.
Of course.
But it's nowhere else, anybody else we want to be. People are dying to get to this country. People are dying. If it's so bad, why are people dying to It can't be, brother. I mean, and so I think when people say that, do we have issues? Like I said, of course you got issues. I mean, but I don't want to be anywhere else. I mean, if you put your head down, do what you're supposed to do, there's nothing that can stop you. I don't, and I hate to say this, and I hate to be getting political, but once I seen we can have a black president, I said, ain't no excuse for anybody. It's no excuse for anybody. And I heard, I hope I'm not quoting it wrong, Maya Angelou, she said she got molested or raped when she was a kid. And so the guy who did it, she told and said when he got out of jail, he got killed. So she said she thought the words that came out of her mouth was the reason that guy got killed. So she didn't speak for years. So she started reading poems, reading novels. And she said once she started speaking again, she read all those novels, then she started writing poems, and that's how the birth of Maya Angelou came out. So she said, was me getting raped the worst thing could ever happen to my life? She said, I don't think so, because she would have never been who she is. To me, that's powerful. She could have been, I'm not saying it's okay to be raped, but she could have took the victim mentality and never been anything. But so when you say, all right, something bad happened to me, that's a true example to say, how can I find the good out of it? And that's a perfect example.
You're bringing something, a theme that I'm very passionate about. And I tell everyone, it's very, very easy to see yourself as a victim. Don't ever become a victim. You're not a victim. When you embrace the victim mentality, everything is game over for you. You have to get out of that. You know, we're not victims. We're capable. We're very able people. It doesn't matter where we're coming from. It doesn't matter, like, you know, your origins, your skin color didn't pull you down to be unsuccessful.
Right.
You became successful. How come others not follow? They should be following. They should be looking up to you and getting inspired. Not just African American, but also people in general, right? I don't think that when we have those conversations and then we make them about a particular group, that's actually helpful. We're all human beings. I could say I'm a minority too, because I am a minority, right? I came here, you know, I'm a Romanian. Originally, I came here, I didn't speak any English, I had to learn. So, you know, I had my challenges too. I just don't want to think about the challenges that I have. I'm grateful for the opportunities, and I'm grateful that I found ways to overcome the challenges. People should look up to someone like you and say, wow, he started from nothing. You know, he was, you know, he grew up, maybe he didn't have all the opportunities, or he didn't have all the tools to be successful, but he figured out a way, and now he runs a multi-million-dollar business. I should be looking up to that person, ask him how did they do it, and then try to copy, try to replicate the model, versus saying that the system is stuck up against you. Of course, there's situations, right? Of course, that you're not at the same level with a person that has $1 billion in a bank.
Right.
But there's still an opportunity for you. I just see that, you know, in today's day of age, there is more opportunity. I'll say that there's an unfortunate part. There's more opportunity for less number of people. But that shouldn't make us think that there's no hope for us. I think that there's a lot of hope, and I think that it's all about a mindset, like you said. It's how do we overcome the challenges, not what we're up against. We've always been up against. When you're thinking about the 1900s, you know, people didn't have running water. They didn't have, They didn't have air conditioning. They didn't have anything. Most people did not have anything. How did they make it? How did they raise 10, 15 children? How did they, build a home for themselves, for their families? How did they build a future? Like, people aren't really thinking that, we're as a society way better than we ever been in a history, and it's just getting better, generally speaking. I took my son a few years ago. He was very little. I want him to see the side of the world that he wasn't exposed to. We went to a homeless shelter to help. And at that time, we helped him. It was a cold winter night. We served coffee and cocoa, and I want him to have this experience so he could see that not everybody is as fortunate as he is, right? And then one thing that really struck me that night was that in that entire room, I was the only one that had a flip phone. Everybody that was, every homeless person that was in that room, they had a smartphone. Maybe a cheap one, maybe not an iPhone, but they had a smartphone. And I was the only person like 7, 8 years ago that had a flip phone in that room. So when we're talking about poverty, I think we have to also see things in context. What do we consider a poor person in the United States of America and versus someone that lives in Haiti or in South Africa or in Nigeria or in Bangladesh or in India? I think that there's many ways to look at this, and in some perspective it could be very, very helpful. A person that lives on minimum wage here, it's considered probably somewhere towards average earning person in many third world countries. So many people will die to make the type of living that someone that's lower middle class here is nowadays.
It's all, like you just said, it's all perspective. And once we get in our mind and figure out the situation that we really are in is really not a bad situation. Just like you said, and I never thought of this. If I couldn't take a bath, if I didn't have no running, if I woke up in the morning and my water was cut off and then my lights were off, I'm not gonna do any work that day. Because that's my mindset. I feel like my day is destroyed, and people really live that way at some point. So when you say that kind of hit a light bulb on me. I'm like, we take for granted the small things that we have.
100%.
I can't imagine not having running water and light. And you said people never. Now, I will tell you this. I can remember growing up as a kid. My dad's mother, which my grandma used to love to go out to her house. And this had been the 80s. It's been the 80s. They still had an outhouse. So we used to go use the outhouse. And for the people who don't know, an outhouse is really a house where you walk out, go in there, sit down on some wood outside, and use the bathroom. And then after so much, you put lime in there. After so much, you have to get it and scoop it out with your hand. With a shovel. And then in the inside of the house, of course, there wasn't any toilets in there. So we used to have a 5-gallon bucket. Hey, that's a true story. And so if you had to urinate, you urinate in the 5-gallon bucket. So, but when I went home, they stayed out in the country, the town called Plainfield. So we stayed like 10 minutes away. Of course, we had running water. And so I used to get back to school with my friend, and I used to tell them about that we take for granted the blessings that we have. But let me tell you what I did. I never felt less than out there because my grandmother gave us love. We had food, we had love, we had the small thing. And it would be amazing. Every weekend, I used to run out there. But it wasn't about no water. We had water, I'm sorry. It wasn't about the outhouse and you had to bathe in a foot. It wasn't about that. I was surrounded by love, the small things. So I'm saying all that, going around 285 to say that a lot of times we're chasing everything else instead of looking inside and looking at the loved ones around us and seeing what we really have. Because at the end of the day, Adrian, I heard this the other day, is nobody who's on their deathbed and knowing this their last hours thinking about the clothes they brought, the cars they brought. They're thinking about, I want my loved ones around me. And you know what you're appreciating then? The things that you didn't appreciate when you was in good health.
Well, and also the regret of not doing. certain things you could have done. And for whatever reason, you postpone, thought that, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then, one day there's not going to be a tomorrow.
Wow.
Because your life just ended today. Wow. 1 million people die in the world, worldwide, every single day. So 1 million people.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the real number. So 1 million people are not going to wake up tomorrow and are not going to have a tomorrow. Imagine, maybe the sadness for some that actually had the opportunity to realize, reflect on a life, tonight when I go to bed, and maybe knowing that they're not going to wake up tomorrow. How much regret and everything. This is one of the reasons that, going back to your previous question, is that I put my all that I have left on the line to live with the least amount of regret possible that I haven't tried the things that I should have tried.
I love that. Man, when I was in college, a friend of mine, and I'm glad you said that because it kind of lit a fire into me now. When I was in college, there was this guy, name, I won't ever forget, named Stacy Miles. He took a jiu-jitsu class. We're in college. My thing was, I'm partying, drinking, chasing women. That's all I wanted to do. And so I asked him, why are you taking a jiu-jitsu class? Then he had did something else that was just, to me, was weird. And he said, life, I will never forget this quote. He said, life is too short to wonder. And I'm like, what you mean? He said, I don't want to be on my deathbed and saying, I wonder if I would have took jiu-jitsu where my life would have been there. I wonder if I would have asked this girl to marry me, where my life would have went. I wonder what if. He said, I don't want to live that way. And it's basically saying the same thing you were living with regret. He said, so even though he don't do jiu-jitsu anymore, and it wasn't a success to him, he's not going to be wondering on his deathbed, I tried. He's not living with regret.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. And that's worse than anything. And I can't say I'm a big Christian or anything, but I believe in a supreme being. And one thing I do know, if you love yourself and you love your creator, the best thing to do for your creator is honor him by doing the most that you can do and not disrespecting him by living not a minimalistic life. What I'm saying is just being mediocrity. Just wasting time and not doing the right thing. I think that's powerful, Adrian. Because if you don't even, how can you say you love your creator and he give you life and you take it for granted?
Don't waste your time.
That's right.
Don't waste your life. Couldn't think of a better way to close this up, brother.
Man.
Thank you for doing this.
Hey, I love that. I didn't know that was going to go there, man.